Send Help is a 2026 American survival horror thriller directed by Sam Raimi. The film stars Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien as two co-workers whose lives change forever after a devastating plane crash leaves them stranded on a remote island. Blending survival drama with psychological tension, the film explores power, control, trauma, and the darkness within human nature when survival is at stake. It premiered at the TCL Chinese Theatre and went on to earn strong reviews, grossing $94 million worldwide. Linda Little has spent most of her life doing everything right and still being invisible. She is disciplined, intelligent, and relentless in her work. Yet she exists in a world where effort alone is never enough. In the corporate space she inhabits, people succeed not just because of what they do, but because of how they are perceived. And Linda has never quite fit that image. She is direct, emotionally distant, and uninterested in playing the social and games that seem to define success. For years, she convinces herself that consistency will eventually be rewarded, that merit will outweigh personality, that one day someone will finally see her for what she truly is. That belief begins to collapse the moment Bradley Preston becomes CEO. Linda has waited for this transition, quietly believing it will be her turning point. But instead of recognition, she receives dismissal. The promotion she has worked toward is handed to Donovan, a man who effortlessly embodies everything she is not: charming, socially fluid, and outwardly confident. Bradley explains it calmly, almost kindly, but the words cut deeper than open rejection ever could. It is not her work that is lacking. It is her presence, her personality, her inability to fit into the version of leadership the world accepts. For the first time, Linda refuses to swallow it. She confronts Bradley, not emotionally, but with a sharp clarity that unsettles him. There is something in her tone, controlled, honest, unafraid, that catches his attention. Instead of shutting her down, he invites her on a business trip to Bangkok, as if curious to see more of what lies beneath her rigid exterior. Linda accepts, still holding on to the fragile hope that she can prove herself. But the flight only reinforces everything she has ever felt. Surrounded by people who belong effortlessly, Linda becomes the outsider once again. Conversations flow around her, laughter fills the cabin, and she sits slightly apart, present but not included. Then Donovan crosses a line that cannot be undone. He plays an old audition tape she once made for a survival reality show. A private moment turned into public humiliation. The cabin erupts in laughter. To them, it is entertainment. To Linda, it is exposure. It is every insecurity she has ever tried to hide, laid bare in front of the very people who already see her as lesser. Yet buried within that moment is something no one else notices, something the film quietly holds on to. Linda knows how to survive, and moments later, that becomes the only thing that matters. The storm arrives without warning, violent and overwhelming, tearing through the aircraft as if the sky itself has turned hostile. The plane shakes uncontrollably, lights flicker, and panic spreads faster than reason can contain it. When the engines fail, it becomes clear that control is gone, completely gone. What was once a carefully engineered system of safety collapses into chaos within seconds. The aircraft begins to break apart mid-air, and in the terrifying instant of explosive decompression, the world opens up. Passengers are ripped from their seats, pulled into the void, their screams disappearing into the storm. And in that moment, when civilization dissolves, human instinct reveals its rawest form. Donovan turns on Linda. Not out of hatred, not out of revenge, but out of pure survival. He tries to take her seat, her chance to live, his morality erased in the face of death. But Linda reacts faster than thought. She fights back with nothing but instinct and desperation, stabbing him with whatever she can reach. It is not calculated. It is not emotional. It is survival at its most primal. Then comes the impact. The ocean swallows everything. When Linda surfaces, the world is unrecognizable. The noise is gone. The chaos is gone. All that remains is an endless horizon of water and sky, vast and indifferent. She clings to debris, suspended between life and exhaustion, until even consciousness begins to fade. When she wakes again, she is no longer in the world she once knew. She is on an island. The air is still. The landscape is almost beautiful. But beneath that beauty is something far more powerful. Silence, isolation, a complete absence of everything that once defined her existence. And then, unexpectedly, she finds Bradley alive. Broken, injured, barely capable of movement. The man who once controlled her career now cannot even stand without help. This is where the balance begins to shift. At first, Linda acts out of necessity. She gathers water, builds shelter, searches for food. Each action is practical, driven by the immediate need to survive. But something begins to change as the days pass. For the first time in her life, there is no one watching her, no one judging her, no one measuring her worth against some invisible standard. The island does not care how she speaks, how she presents herself, or how she fits into a room. It only responds to what she does. And Linda is good at this. She adapts quickly, almost instinctively. She learns the terrain, studies the environment, understands the rhythms of survival. She builds with purpose, hunts with precision, and moves with a growing confidence that feels entirely new. Each success reinforces something she has never truly felt before, not validation from others, but belief in herself. But Bradley cannot let go of the old world. Even in his weakened state, he clings to authority. He speaks to her like a subordinate, as if titles still matter, as if hierarchy still exists. And slowly, that becomes unbearable. Because for the first time, Linda understands something clearly. Out here, power is not given. It is taken. So she leaves him. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. She needs him to understand what survival truly means. When she returns 2 days later and finds him on the verge of death, something fundamental has changed between them. Bradley no longer sees her as lesser. He sees her as essential. And Linda begins to see herself differently too, stronger, more capable, more in control. And then comes the moment that defines everything. A boat appears on the horizon. It is distant, but unmistakable. A clear path back to civilization, back to the life she once struggled so hard to succeed in. Linda watches it carefully, silently, the weight of that choice pressing down on her. And she does nothing. No signal, no attempt, no hesitation, because somewhere deep inside she has already made the decision. The world she came from never valued her. This place does. As time passes, the dynamic between Linda and Bradley transforms completely. She teaches him how to survive, but never fully. She keeps him dependent, maintaining control in subtle, deliberate ways. Her past begins to surface in fragments: an abusive relationship, a life shaped by powerlessness, a deep, unresolved need to never feel that way again. So when Bradley tries to escape, poisoning her and attempting to leave on a fragile raft, it confirms everything she fears, that even now she can be abandoned. But his plan fails. The ocean destroys the raft, and Linda rescues him once again, this time not as an equal, but as someone who owns his survival. She paralyzes him using octopus toxin, stripping away his ability to act, to resist, to leave. The shift is complete. What began as cooperation has become control, and then the outside world returns. Zori arrives. Hope, rescue, reality, all standing right in front of her. And Linda rejects it because accepting it would mean losing everything she has become. So she leads Zuri and the boat captain toward death, guiding them to a cliff where one step is enough to erase them. And just like that, the final connection to her old life disappears. When Bradley discovers the truth, the last illusion shatters. Their confrontation is brutal, emotional, desperate. He injures her, taking her eye, but even that cannot stop her, because Linda is no longer afraid of pain. She has moved beyond it. In the end, there is no negotiation left, no compromise, only survival as she defines it, and she kills him. A year later, the world tells a different story. Linda is rescued, celebrated, admired. She becomes a symbol of strength. Her story transformed into inspiration, her survival turned into something people can consume and praise. But beneath that version of events lies a truth no one sees. At a glamorous event, standing in front of an audience that sees her as a hero, Linda delivers her final message with calm, unwavering certainty. No, help is coming. So you'd better start saving yourself. And as the applause fills the room, it becomes clear. The island did not change her. It simply gave her the freedom to become who she always had the potential to be.